Hey guys, what's going on? Hope you had a good week. Unfortunately, the Bullseye trades this week didn't actually go very well again, so I was going to talk a little bit about that and kind of go through a few things. So hopefully this will be useful for you if you are in the service and to give you kind of an overview of what's going on. So this is something that I've talked about pretty much non-stop for the last few months, and it's because it's a service that I really like. It's been doing really well for most of the year. Right up until the point where a lot of people started watching my videos and joining, of course, because that's what always happens. It happens every single time. As soon as I start to show a long track record of success with a service, a whole bunch of people will join it. And then immediately, without fail, it'll start like failing horribly. And so unfortunately that's what's been happening, but I wouldn't give up hope just yet if you've joined. So obviously you're responsible for your own trades, etc, etc, etc. But in these videos I try and give my overview of what I do with these trades, and hopefully that can help you guys with these trades as well, kind of minimize the losing ones and maximize the winning ones, hopefully. So my hope here is to kind of talk through this last week's trade and the last few losing trades, trying to give you some perspective on what might be going on here. So if you're new or you don't know where this article is, go and check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. It talks about Bullseye trade in great detail, and then I've listed all the trades for 2022, and I just started on 2023 as well now. So I'm going to just continue doing what I've been doing for the last year. And so this week's trade was a call on MBLY, so I'm going to talk about that. The overall problem here, though, is it was another losing trade for me. And so this is part of the issue that we're having right now, is the last 3 in a row have been losing trades. Now, that's not really a big deal, right? You lose 3 trades in a row, it's really not a big deal. That happens all the time to people. The issue we're having here is the Bullseye trades tend to be large percentage losers when they go wrong. The winners are usually really quite large. 100%, 200% is not uncommon with the winners, as you'll see below. But the losing trades tend to be somewhere in the region of 40 to 80%, depending on how you play them. I try and keep them below 50 if I can. And there's a couple of tricks I use to do that. And so I talked about these tricks before, but I think given this losing streak, it's worth reiterating, because here's the biggest problem. Once you start to have a drawdown like this, people change their strategies, and so this is with any trading, this is with your own strategy, this is with alert services. As soon as people take a couple of losses, or even just sometimes one loss, the temptation is to change how you're trading and be like, okay, this sucks, or my strategy's wrong, or this guy's a scam artist, or whatever, and so the temptation is to change what you're doing. And I think that's a huge mistake, because what I see time and time again is people will join a service, they might hit 2 winners, and then they'll hit a losing trade, and if the losing trade is large, they'll immediately just quit the service and be like, this isn't for me. They won't look at the bigger picture. And I was talking to Lance from Theta Traders about this, and with all these sell side strategies especially, you have to look at a longer term period, right? So when you're selling options, you have to take a big data set, because there's always this idea that you could win 90 of them and then lose it all in one trade. So you need, on the sell side, to look at hundreds of trades before you can really make a conclusion about whether a strategy actually works or not. And the same thing happens right on the buy side with services like Bullseye trades, where if you take the last 3 trades, you'd say, wow, this guy is terrible, he's picking the worst stocks possible, this is terrible. The problem is that it's not the big picture. If you look through all the rest of the trades, have all been working really well, which is why I've been championing this service for so long. So if you look at just this snippet here at the top, right, you're like, oh my god, every single week it's 50%-ish losses, oh my god, I'm not joining that, or I'm quitting, or Jeff and Russell is scamming us, or blah blah blah. And so the problem is that's just not true, though, and I keep showing this every week because it's easy to lose sight of it. And so if you look at this winning streak, this way outweighs the last 3 losses, and that's just that winning streak. Sure, there was another loss there, but if you keep looking down and looking through all these, they're all winning trades, and it just goes on and on and on. There's another losing trade. And so if you were trading all of 2022 with a strategy, you'd still be up pretty well. In fact, I know many people that are probably watching this video have been trading this for a while and are still up significantly using just a bullseye trade strategy. The biggest problem is a lot of people joined right here, right after this last winning trade. And so there's a lot of grumpy people out there, and you can see that reflected in some of the comments on here. And so one guy, I think I know who he is, this guy, he's going, Jeff, I'm beginning to think I may have jinxed your service since I joined 3 weeks ago. What a nightmare for me and all your subscribers. Russell will be getting it in the neck as he's championing Bullseye big time. I hope this is said in jest, and I think it is. But it kind of brings it to, like, this is exactly what the problem is, right? Like, there's a lot of people joined, and then of course it goes on this losing streak. But let's talk about the trade. Let's talk about a few things here so that people don't give up. So, of course, this isn't investment advice. If you don't like bullseye trades and you think it's a scam now after the recent losses, by all means do not continue taking the trades. But I'd encourage you to look at the bigger picture, and that this potentially would be a silly point to quit, because statistically this is just a drawdown in the strategy, right? It's just my opinion. Do what you think's best for your account and your investing goals, obviously. And so let's look at BTU. So BTU last week was a losing trade. I took a 60% loss, which was a large loss on this. I did take a really small position though, because it was a risky trade, so it wasn't actually a big overall monetary loss for me, but it was a big percentage loss. Jeff did his thing where he said, you know what, I'm going to change my rules here and I'm going to stay in this. And it's actually recovered pretty well for him if you look at BTU. Let's look at BTU really quickly. And so some people are still holding, and look at BTU has actually recovered really nicely here from last week. So a lot of people got stopped out in this drop, but if you were adding like Jeff was down here, you end up having a nice win. And a couple of people mentioned that in the comments for this week's trade, that they did that and they actually got out quite nicely. So this guy right here, they hung on to the January 6th calls and they got out for a nice profit. So in this case, like, Jeff's changing his thesis and saying, hey, I still believe in this trade, I'm going to hold it, actually worked. It's not the way I've been playing them, so I did take this loss, others didn't. And so you can see there is a degree of flexibility in these alerts and these ideas. But I still stand by my thesis of always trying to get in these at the lowest possible price. And so I'll kind of show you what I did with MBLY. So I'll set this to 5 days, 5 minutes. Let's see. Like, I took a loss in MBLY, but it was a pretty small loss. It's not, it hasn't bothered me in the least. And I'll show you why. So here's the email that came out this week for MBLY. It was an IPO. You can go and check this out. Basically, he was talking about continue to go against the trend, move higher on its own, see a lot of potential. The market was really choppy again this week, so MBLY unfortunately got chopped up with it. He put in here that this is the calls, so January 20 calls, still plenty of time on them, which is why he's still holding them. I'm not. I took the loss. $35 call near 220. Now, I keep saying this every single video. This is the start, right? This is where they were alerted. I don't even think about buying this until we're down here somewhere. And so I took a tiny position right here, and then I added somewhere down here, so my average ended up right about here somewhere on, you know, on the underline. Obviously I'm talking about options here. I'll show you the options contracts in a minute if you want. And then the close of 32 was the stop, right? So we closed just below 32, so I held overnight, and immediately as soon as I started to see a sell signal here on my GPS indicator, I decided I'd cut my loss. Unfortunately, if it held it, it would have still actually been a profit for me. Not much of a profit, but it would have still gone back up and I'd made money on it. But that's the way it goes. Some people held and actually are doing okay. A lot of people, as soon as it closed beneath 32, did actually end up stopping out, like I did. So. Not fantastic at all. Let's look at the contracts just to go through them. January 20th, $35 calls. Let's see what they actually ended up doing. So it was these ones. So let me send this to my brokerage right here. Alright, so yeah, so the calls actually did get hit quite hard, even though we did see a recovery in the stock, obviously because of the probably partly because of time decay and volatility and stuff. And so this was the third right here, and so yeah, I ended up with an average around like 0.7 or something like that. It was like here, like down here somewhere. And so I took a bit of a loss on it, but the drop on this day really wasn't that bad. So I really didn't end up taking much of a loss on the position at all. So the bad thing is that, like, if you buy right at the market open on Monday, I would say the vast majority of the time you'll get it cheaper at the end of the day on Monday, or even the next day on the Tuesday after the alert. So yeah, so bear that in mind. Also, when I'm doing these things, I also look at my GPS indicator, and I was talking to Eric on Facebook about this. He has the GPS as well, and that also is a guideline for me. So if we're closing beneath 32 and we're opening with a downside indicator, for me that's like, okay, I'm going to cut it at that point, and then so I do. So yeah, and so the takeaway message here is a few things. First of all, when the email comes out, don't jump in at this price. I always think of that as like the highest possible price that I want to pay. I really want to pay 30% less than that, or even 50% less than that. These things are volatile, they pull back. And so if you're nervous going forward, wait for a pullback. I wouldn't, jump in at 220 or 250, chase it, see this. That's the worst thing you can do. Wait for these things to pull back, and what will happen is you'll minimize your losses. And so when you do get a down streak like we are seeing, you won't get really mad. These will be more reasonable losses. And then if we're in a period of market volatility, try and size down as well. So Jeff will sometimes say taking a smaller position, but if you're feeling like this is like, okay, that's it, I'm never doing another bullseye trade, I would at least keep an eye on it going forward, because all it takes is like the next 5 to be winners in a row, and you'll be kicking yourself that you decided that this service wasn't for you. Obviously up to you, make your own decisions, but that's my take on it. I'm going to continue taking these trades. I know that this is just a drawdown. If you think there's not going to be a drawdown when there's like dozens and dozens of winners in a row, then it's kind of unrealistic, and you got to expect it. So it's very unfortunate, and I think a lot of people are getting frustrated, and rightly so. Reading the comments here, I'm looking at people saying like having a bit of a go at Jeff, and Jeff started saying the market's no direction right now, stocks are making moves 20% in either direction, retracing in a few days later, the chop is extreme. For example, like he almost sold at an 80% loss this morning, but now he's within striking distance of break even, all within a couple hours. And so these things are volatile and choppy, and this is a difficult time to be trading them. Yeah, so yeah. Alright, well, hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully you guys are not too mad that these last few trades have been losing trades. Hopefully you're small. Hopefully you weren't chasing stuff, and you are living to fight another day. The worst thing you can be doing at this point is going full portfolio into bullseye trades, because this is why, right? You might be getting over eager after a few winners like these ones, and then suddenly you're giving it all back with this losing streak. So anyway, I'm still hopeful. I'm really hoping we see a change in the market direction. Make at least to pick a good direction, right? So hopefully the direction's up for a lot of people that are down with swings from start of 2022. Hopefully we start to see more of a trend upwards in the market. That would be awesome. And then hopefully we see some more consistency again with the bullseye trades. Alright guys, talk to you soon. Have a good weekend.